Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Misericordia University Alumni Podcast. I am your host, class of 2017 and 2019 alumnus, Mike Gambita. Today on the show, we are featuring a postcard profile. This 2012 alumnus is on the front lines, but bringing positive energy has brought him and his team immense gratitude from notable celebrities. Ladies and gentlemen, an alumni of Misericordia, please welcome Jeff Salvatore to the show. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
We are so happy to have you on the first ever video podcast. So, Jeff, congratulations on that. But I'm sure it won't surmount to the amount of accolades and things we're going to be talking about today. But we're just going to jump right into it. Jeff, what have you been up to since you graduated from Misericordia?
Since I graduated Misericordia in 2012, I worked 9 years at Cooper University Healthcare in Camden, New Jersey. While I was there, I worked on a progressive step-down unit. I moved to the cardiac ICU. I got my master's in nursing education in a program at Western Governors University. I have done some service projects since I've been out, and kind of just traveling and just, enjoying my career and enjoying life and my family and friends.
That sounds awesome. Now, Jeff, we're kind of moving into some things. It's kind of funny when it comes to our podcasts where I get to meet the person for the first time when it comes to, being a part of the podcast. But I got to know you a little bit. I had some people texting me and I had some people saying, you need to feature Jeff. You need to feature Jeff. So kind of talk me through, obviously we pre-record these podcasts, but kind of tell me what you're going through right now as far as your current job and your current location right now at, I believe it's Thomas Jefferson University Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes. So a year ago, February was a year that I've been at Jefferson. I took a position as clinical nurse specialist for the float and per diem pool. So the nursing pool is nurses who don't really work in a specific unit. They're more so in a skill set. We have it broken into critical care, intermediate care, medical, surgical, and procedural. So I have about 230 nurses who are kind of divvied up into their specific skill set. And the pool, the whole purpose of them is to fill in staffing gaps in the hospital. So they don't work in the same unit every day. They don't work with the same nurses every day. And they really don't ever work together as a traditional unit. So they're kind of like they're kind of like soldiers that we deploy out to fill in the staffing gaps. Currently, the nursing pool at Jefferson got tasked with staffing the COVID-19 Drive Thru testing. So this is, I think, our 6th week doing it. We are open 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, we are 8 to 5. On Saturdays, we are open 9 to 5. And Sundays, we are open 12 to 5. And it was kind of this, paradox when everybody's asked to being isolating and socially distant, that these nurses got chosen to come together for the first time that never really got the chance to work together. And it's kind of just been a really wild ride. I mean, we are testing upwards to almost 200 patients a day sometimes. Monday through Friday, we're pretty steady over seeing 100 patients, and the weekends are anywhere from 50, usually above 50 patients a day. So past 6 weeks have been kind of crazy, kind of surreal, but I'm working with an amazing group of nurses, and we're really just making the best experience.
And I'm sure, Jeff, that you're obviously on the front line. So thank you so much for all that you guys do down there in Thomas Jefferson. And I kind of want to at least ask you, because I think it's really important for those people to know, kind of. I wouldn't say what's the atmosphere like. I know we're going to go into how you keep positive amongst your team, but just kind of go through what you guys are going through every day, and what's kind of the situation, I guess, is the best way to word it.
I think being on the front line, no matter what role you're in, it's just a very stressful situation. In our testing site, the atmosphere is, definitely anxiety. There's definitely apprehension because, we're out there and we're testing these patients. And some of them, depending on the resource that we get, because resources are limited, worldwide and in the country, sometimes we're doing oral swabs. So you're literally are in these patients' faces trying to obtain a specimen from the back of their throat, and they're coughing in your face. And my nurses, they're still working inside in the units as well. They're still in the ICUs, they're still on the COVID floors, as well as doing the testing on the parking lot. So it's just very stressful. Every day you're like, is this the day that I'm going to get a fever? I mean, unfortunately, I'm having staff members who are testing positive from it. Um, you know, so it's just very stressful all around the environment. We sign up to take care of people while we're sick, and we're in this position where you still want to do your job because you're proud to be a nurse and that's your passion to take care of people. But at the same time, you're nervous for your health and you're nervous for your family's health.
I think everybody can relate, at least in this situation, whether you yourself are on the front lines or me, myself, who is currently staying at home and trying their best to social distance. But Jeff, I know reason that we kind of got together was there was some ways that you and your team have kept positive during these times, and I think I personally, for me, it was super exciting when I don't want to say we landed the interview, but when we got a chance to speak with you. But there's been some ways that you've been kind of keeping the morale and kind of keeping the positivity forward. So kind of go ahead and talk to me about things that you do. Maybe possibly you're telling me every Sunday. It's a little slow during the day, but what are some things that you've been up to as far as keeping the morale up and the positivity?
So keeping the morale and the positivity up is I mean, it's almost everything. I keep telling my staff, you need to be taking care of yourself because I need you to take care of these patients. Even before this pandemic started, healthcare burnout is a huge thing. Every day we're dealing with sick people. Every day we're dealing with infectious diseases, and now this is just on a global pandemic scale. So it's just even more heightened and enhanced. So I'm really drilling in heavy that these nurses, they need to take care of themselves. They need to recognize how they're feeling, and they need to deal with it appropriately. Because when you come to work, I need you to be able to work, and I need you to be able to do your job. So some things that we're doing is just open discussions. We set up every morning and we break down every evening and we brief and debrief and we talk about not only the day and what happened and what can be done better, but I'm also asking them what's going on in your life. How are you feeling? How are you feeling coming to work? How are you feeling before we start today? Are you nervous? Did something happen? Because you need to be able to be focused when you're at work. I just keep drilling that into them. So besides having conversations, another thing that we do is just I'm a pretty goofy person. I like to dance around, sing a lot. If you take it back to my days at Misericordia, you can ask student activities office, ask the campus ministry office. They know that I do not sit still or I do not shut up. So I'm literally just doing what I've always done. It just happened to be during a pandemic and get the attention of the singer of the song that we were dancing to. So it's kind of funny, but my nurses really appreciate kind of the lightheartedness when we take these breaks and these dancing breaks. And it's really just helping us to form a bond, to be able to be a unit, be a traditional unit and support each other and get through the long days. So
I think that's a really great way, especially from a leadership perspective. Now, Jeff, I'm just curious as far as, you being the manager per se, as far as your group of nurses, but is this kind of the learning curve as far as being a leader, or do you feel like you're kind of, I don't want to say you're kind of at a plateau where it's similar, but I'm sure you're probably facing a lot of stress and, there's some positivity, but there's always some dark days too in between that. So.
Right. This is my first time being in a position where I'm taking care of the people who are taking care of the patient. And it just so happens to be during a pandemic. So there was definitely a learning curve. But leadership really just comes back down to humanism and taking care of people and respecting people and recognizing that there's more to them than just the surface. And that also makes you a great nurse. It can make you a great teacher. It can make you a great physician. You just have to recognize that you're dealing with another human being, you're dealing with another person, and you just break it down to that level. Leadership comes down to communication. It comes down to respect. Respect is the biggest thing. And if you let these people know that, you have their back, they're going to have your back just as much. And it's really just what it comes down to. So no matter what situation you're in, no matter what type of leadership role you're in, it's all just about how you're treating people.
I certainly won't reveal just yet one of the interviews that I caught as far as that, but one of your team members was talking about, she was kind of going through a bad day, and she texted the group chat, and every single one of you guys were responding with positive thoughts and comments and just the supportive role. And I think you and I can both agree that leadership is not just from the top down. It's everybody in between. So
I think one of the biggest ways that a leader can show success is that their staff or the people that they're working for, they're also leaders. You pass that along. It's a ripple effect. So you set the tone for the team, you set the message for what we're trying to accomplish, what we're trying to do, and then everybody gets on board. The group of nurses that I'm working with, they are used to going to different units. They're used to not having your traditional coworker there because it's a different unit every day. It's different people every day. There's a thing known as like the pool assignment, which always isn't the best assignment. But these nurses are flexible. They are very knowledgeable. They are very resilient, and they really have a passion for their job. You can't be a pool nurse if you don't love being a nurse. It's a pretty tough position to be in, and I give them all the credit in the world. So just to be able to see how they're stepping up to this challenge and stepping up to support each other and myself as well. I mean, they really have meant a lot to me and helped me out a lot as well. It's just been a really great experience.
I find it truly humbling to hear that, it's a Jeff Salvatore is the podcast, but you're certainly speaking about the other nurses, and it's almost kind of starstruck, like I told you before we started, like it seems a little starstruck here. But Jeff, your positivity amongst you and your team has kind of sparked a little bit of attention with a couple individuals, but I'm just going to let you take it away as far as some of the, I want to call it superstardom, but some of the attention that you've been receiving within the positivity that you've had during this time.
So it's actually been a goal of mine for a while to start an Instagram page for our pool nurses, mainly because I wanted to, I don't want to say advertise, but I did want to advertise them to the hospital. We recently started a full-time pool, so I have full-time staff that are working, and I wanted them to be known. I wanted people to know who they are, so it's not like you're new every time you walk onto a unit. That's kind of got postponed, and this operation that we're currently doing kind of gave me the chance to jumpstart on that. And the first video that we posted was a TikTok. It was the Blinding Lights Challenge. And the whole reason that came about was because it was a Sunday afternoon. We're only open from 12 to 5 on Sundays. Usually the first couple hours are the busiest. And it was really cold that day. So typically, like if the patients aren't around, we'll have music playing. We're jumping around trying to stay warm. And my one nurse was like, oh, if we're dancing around, like, let's learn a TikTok. Because a lot of the healthcare workers are making TikToks, just to kind of spread positivity and spread joy. So I was like, okay, well, you can make it. And then they were like, yeah, can we post it? And then anybody who knows me knows I am very much a perfectionist. In college, we did this leadership thing, and there was campus ministry, and there's different ways to classify you as a leader. And there's north, south, east, and west. And I was a north through and through, which means I'm type A, OCD, everything. So I said, you can make a TikTok, but if we're doing this, it's going to be clean, just like how I want your nursing care to be. Like, this is going to be pristine as well. So they're not really hard things to learn. You're just like flapping your arms around. It's not very intricate dancing. But we posted the Blinding Lights Challenge. It was popular around the Philadelphia area. And then a week later, we ended up doing the Level Up one. And the whole reason with Level Up is just such a powerful message for what, we're trying to kind of bring up around our staff and our testing site, and kind of what all the frontline and essential workers are doing. So we did the Level Up TikTok video, and that just really took off. Sierra got wind of it somehow. She reposted it, and it's literally been a whirlwind ever since. It's gone pretty viral. We ended up on the Ellen show, which was insane and such a surreal experience. But the thing that I'm most proud of is, besides just our TikToks, if you go to our Instagram page, there's a lot of other content as well. And I'm kind of just trying to get the nurses to speak on how they're feeling and what their experience is like. And we're just trying to push out the message of positivity. Adversity gives you the opportunity to look at a situation and handle it, and you choose how you're going to handle it. So you can see it as a disadvantage, or you can use adversity as an opportunity to make something good out of it. No matter what you're handed, you handle how you handle those cards that you're dealt. So
Wow. Jeff, as somebody who's in the field of social media, I think you really bring a great point at the sense you kind of want the transparency that you and your team are going through. And that transparency kind of led to this superstardom of, being on Ellen and done some other things. Sierra has caught wind of it. And, it feels like it keeps building up. But I think the greatest thing to kind of shed light onto is the fact that you guys are still doing your jobs too.
right, there is absolutely no social media before patient care. Like I said, I have had very high standards for the staff. They know what my standards are. They're very aware. We are there to work. We don't waste our resources. We do not waste our time, and we take our jobs very seriously. And you have to, because in this climate of this virus, if you are not being careful, you're going to catch the virus. So, we're not dancing around while there's patients around. We're not dancing around in dirty PPE. It's either, if we shoot a video and we're wearing the PPE, we did it before the day started because we were still clean, and then we started our day. So, it's kind of a balance of you want to bring to light the real situation, because people need to know that social distancing has to happen. You have to stay home because we really need to stay on top of this virus. People are dying and people are getting sick, and it's very scary. But at the same time, you want to give a message of hope. You want to put positivity out there, and just the message of things are rough and it's really scary right now, but we have each other and we are together and we're going to get through it. So
I think that's amazing coming from a person who's experiencing it. And Jeff, you're down in the Philadelphia area, and that's kind of where it kind of grew a little bit more. And then of course it went all out through across Pennsylvania. I mean, just Pennsylvania itself, I mean, we're obviously dealing with a worldwide almost pandemic, but I think you bring a really good point at the fact that you yourself are saying just please stay at home. Like
right.
it is so important to stay at home and to do the things that serious doctors and nurses and all these health experts are recommending, is to just stay home or let people like you guys be able to do the job that you're supposed to be doing.
Right. I think, the biggest message is everybody's getting impatient, everybody's getting antsy, and they're getting bored and frustrated, and we're feeling the same exact way. Our days off, nursing is a tough job, and our days off are very important. We all have routines to take care of ourselves, and none of us are doing them right now. And this is not going to end any quicker if people aren't, doing what the CDC is saying to do, doing what the government is saying to do. And I think if we all just band together and just really just tough it out for a little bit longer, things will get better sooner. It's frustrating, working and seeing people protesting against it. It's just, but you got to meet people where they are as they are, and we're still going to take care of you, even though you're not social distancing. But
Jeff, I think the best thing about our alumni base of 19,000 strong is the fact of mentorship and giving our current students and our future alumni the opportunity to connect with some of our current alumni that are going through. I know I'm throwing a curveball question at you at the moment, but what is some advice that a current nursing student that is technically seeing this all, not really necessarily being in it, they may be in it just based on where they're at, but what's some advice that you would give to a current nursing student, especially from Misericordia, to possibly kind of shed a little light into them being the soon to be professionals?
I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I could give to nursing students, first of all, you need to make sure nursing is what you want to do, because it is a career where you are dealing with people for most part, they're most vulnerable and they're worst. And it is something that you need to have a passion about. It is something that you really need to care for, because it is a tough job. With that being said, my biggest piece of advice is somebody told me when I first started, go treat them like they're your family. And something that my mom says, she's in healthcare as well. And, you have to care for these people. One of my biggest things is small acts of love. When I was a senior in campus ministry, our theme was don't ever doubt that a small group of committed people can change the world or make a difference. I forget how the quote goes, but in fact, it's the only thing that ever has. And nursing gives you the perfect opportunity to make those small differences every day. Like small acts of love send out big ripples, and that's what makes the changes. You are not going to save everybody, but you can still have a positive impact if you're caring for them at the end of their life. It's just how you approach it. And that comes with experience and time. But, nursing is a great field. So you have a great future ahead of you.
Absolutely a powerful message to our soon-to-be graduates and, of course, our up-and-coming future nurses that will maybe sooner or later, Jeff, be side by side with you as far as, being on those front lines. But we're going to transition a little bit. You did talk about campus ministry and student activities, two very close departments that are near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, you and mine specifically. But how has Misericordia helped you get to where you are today? I know you kind of sprinkled it in a little bit with some of your answers, but ideally, how has Misericordia helped you get to where you are today?
I think Misericordia gave me the kind of help to develop the mindset that I have today. Number one, it gave me my education. It gave me my degree, so we can be tangible on that fact. It gave me a great training. I loved nursing school there. I loved my professors and my experience. But with that being said, you have these charisms of mercy, service, justice, and hospitality. And I remember coming in as a freshman and sitting through orientation and just being like, okay, mercy, service, justice, hospitality. But, when you get involved and you immerse yourself in that culture, the culture of mercy, and you do service projects, or you go on service trips, or you don't even have to do things like that. If you're just mindfulness and, what are you doing? And every time you encounter a human being, are you showing them mercy? Are you acting in a just way? Are you being hospitable? Are you working in service to help other people? It really just 4 years of that really just kind of changed my frame of mind, and it really had a huge impact on me. This world, I mean, it's kind of like the view of the pandemic is kind of like my view on the world. Like there's a lot of bad stuff out there. If you look at all the issues, or if you look at this pandemic, it's so overwhelming. But you can't look at the big problems. You need to be like, I am here today in this encounter, in this interaction with another person, and I'm going to choose mercy, and I'm going to choose justice and service and hospitality. And just really focus on those small acts of who you encounter and like what little difference you can make today. So.
Those four charisms are certainly...
Still think about them all the time.
Jeff, I'm really curious because what were some of the things you were involved in campus ministry as well as student activities? I'm just really curious because I want to see if there's a connection between the both of us here.
So I was work study and student activities. Darcy and Paulette, love you guys. I was on the praise and worship committee, and then I was student coordinator for campus ministry for 2 years. I was a peer advocate. I was in SAPE. I was an orientation leader. There was a bunch of things. I was involved in a lot. I loved all the opportunities I had there. So.
It was funny. Darcy actually forwarded me your first TikTok, which was the Blinding Lights Challenge. So I wasn't... It's funny because both of us did orientation. Well, not at the same year, but I was a fellow orientation.
Now.
Yeah, that's really cool, Jeff. That's I just curious about that. I'm always curious about what our alumni were a part of.
Yeah, and it's so funny that this viral thing was just from like dancing around, because I was in work study, and I'd be work studying student activities, and I'd be over in the campus ministry office with like Kristen and Chris and Georgia and Father Don, and be goofing around and dancing, and Paula or Darcy would be like pulling me back in and yelling at me. Guess it wasn't in vain since this is happening, but
no, I mean, hey, I think campus ministry can kind of take a little bit that they knew you before you were famous. So,
right. Yeah.
Jeff, have you been in any touch with any of some of your classmates or any of your alumni? I always say this is the perfect opportunity to give shout outs, if any. I mean, you gave some to Darcy and Paulette, but any alumni that you've been in touch with?
So, I mean, I think most of my best friends are from college. And I kind of had different groups. I had my nursing school friends. One of my really good friends, Amanda Howard, she's on the front lines at Lehigh Valley in their ER. Mary, Ashley, Dave Smith, Kyle Slavetskas, who actually works at Cooper in the CCU, the unit I used to work in. These great people from nursing school, Kelsey, who I still keep in touch with. And then, I had my just friends from dorms, from campus ministry, Lisa Witt, Julianne, a lot of people from Search that I talked to. And then I had my roommates, Mark, Dustin, Townhouse 18 people, Joe. So I keep in touch with a lot of people. We don't get to see each other as often. But when we do pick up, it's like we left off, and we didn't skip a beat.
That's absolutely amazing. It's the Misericordia aura, or the Misericordia mystique that I think both of us have felt since going to school.
Right. And I feel like I could shout out people for an hour straight, so I'm sorry if I didn't say your name. But I mean, I have just the greatest friends that I made from college that I'm thankful for. So.
That's awesome. Jeff, any final thoughts before we wrap up this first video podcast, but podcast itself?
Just thanks for having me. It was great to kind of, just talk about how Misericordia has impacted me and go down memory lane a little bit. I don't know much more I could say, but it was fun. It was fun, doing the interview.
I'm glad you picked it up, and I'm glad we had the chance to, be able to do that. You are obviously in our thoughts and prayers during this time. Jeff, thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today.
Thank you.